Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that rode a Rancor into work today. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings or Friday evenings, or available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks!
Patrons get those perks.
My Rancor's in the shop.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and the only man I know who can grow better facial hair than Hercule Poirot, it's Andrew Armsby, ladies and gentlemen.
Ahoy!
And each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. She calls every movie a murderer. It's a problem. It's Alice! Welcome, Alice.
G'day.
Woo! How's life down under, Alice? How's stuff in Australia?
It's so hot down here.
It's your summer.
It is our summer, and as we know, it's infamous for being always really hot in summer. But it's cooling down. We're only in the 90s today, so look,
all right.
I'll take that.
Now,
do you Australians use Fahrenheit, or
that's what I was going to ask. Did you convert
No,
it for us?
I have to convert it because I don't even know if I'm saying the right one. It's like 30-something degrees here, but for you, that's like freezing cold. So
it is just below zero. Or
I was going to say
freezing,
it's probably 32, about 32 in both places right now. It's 32 here and 32 there. It's
actually it's a brisk 50 right now here.
Yes,
it's not too cold.
No,
but 90
degrees. If it's 50 degrees over here, we're all like about to die of heat stroke. So
I assume in Australia, and I don't know if it's the same for coastal regions, but I assume it's always a dry heat. Like it's always dry. Is there really humidity?
Incorrect. It's
really?
Like, first of all, I think pretty much everyone lives on the coast because you can't really live in the middle of Australia because it's like just desert.
It's death.
So
it's death.
Yeah. Well, if you live in, if you can Google it, but people who do live in the center, they live in like holes in the ground that they've like built into nice houses. But so everyone's on the coast. But no, because I live in Melbourne and it's famous for having 4 seasons in a day, and so the humidity. So we'll have intense hail and rain while it's also like 35 degrees, which is like 90 something. And so
the Missouri of Australia.
Yes.
Pretty much.
It works really well. Well, we know you came here to hear the weather report from our various locations, so we'll just keep talking about that instead of pop culture.
I bet Alice could be a great weather woman, because she already has the hand gestures. Absolutely. She could do the presentation.
Yeah.
We gotta
just need a green screen. We'd be all set.
Yeah, I know. Oh, why didn't I think about that? I'll go back to school.
There you go.
You should. No, let's get into talking about the movies for this week. We will, of course, do the reviews, Death on the Nile, and then also Book of Boba Fett. We're going to do a season review, season 1 of Book of Boba Fett. We've got a best ever challenge on the best ever Kenneth Branagh movies as an actor, not a director, as an actor. And then, of course, we'll do some buried treasure as well. Let's kick it off by talking about Death on the Nile. Belgian sleuth Hercule Poirot's Egyptian vacation aboard a glamorous river steamer turns into a terrifying search for a murderer when a picture-perfect couple's idyllic honeymoon is tragically cut short. Nice big cast on this one, as murder mysteries often have. Gal Gadot, Armie Hammer, Letitia Wright, of course, Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot, and many, many others stepping in there as well. I think probably should mention at least Annette Bening, who is in the movie, and even Russell Brand, who apparently is supposed to be in this movie. Although I'm not sure I'm not sure if that actually happened. What did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Death on the Nile. Andrew, why don't you kick us off?
I liked it. Solid,
right.
Straight down the middle. Liked it. Definitely does not live up to Murder on the Orient Express for me.
Okay. What about you, Alice? What say you?
Yeah, I'm at liked it. I feel like maybe slightly on the lower side, but I would say in the middle. And yeah, not as good as Murder on the Orient Express, and also not as good as my expectations or the book. So, but liked it, yeah.
Now, I've never read the book. I've heard that you can read books. It's just not something I partake in. But I will say, I think I like this more than you guys. I, however, am still in liked it with you, but I think I'm on the high side of liked it. And I do think Murder on the Orient Express is a better movie, but I don't think it's by a wide margin. I really don't. I really had a good time with this movie.
I'm wondering if the continuous postponement of this movie had any effect on my enjoyment of it. Like,
sure.
So this is what they kept postponing for, I know a lot of it wasn't, their fault, with the pandemic and everything, but like it got postponed and postponed. I think this was supposed to come out in 2019, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was on our most
some of it was also
Christmas, the 2019 movie.
Well, it's been on our most anticipated list 3 years. So seriously, we talked about it on anticipated 2019, anticipated 2020, 2021, and 2022. So actually, I think it was 2020 when it was scheduled for. But yeah.
But then it was also postponed due to a main actor no longer being a good guy.
Sure, yeah. We're not going to go into that here. That's not what we do. Number one. And number two, I don't want to talk about that. So,
No, but that was another reason. I think it was like postponed because of the pandemic, and then they had to wait like another 6 months or something because of that while they sorted their own internal stuff out. But definitely waited a little bit. I reckon that Kenneth's just been sitting there with the like file, just like, it's coming.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
I'll just watch it at home.
Yep. I will also say this. When we review a murder mystery, a SIF spoil is required. It's just going to happen. Yeah. We will be talking all the spoilers because obviously plots and suspects and all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to be talking about kind of our general thoughts on the movie aspect of it, not necessarily who was the killer, kind of idea. So, what about you? Oh no, we already did all our liked it, loved it, didn't we? We all liked it. I guess I liked it most, so I can keep talking. I think this movie's gorgeous. I'll just start there. I really enjoyed just looking at this movie. There's a real beautiful eye for how to capture this area. There's a little bit of CG-ness to some of the landscapes. Like, I see it a little bit, but I still mostly don't care because I'm having a really good time looking at the beauty. I also really enjoy several of these performances. Emma McKee is astonishing in this movie. Just astonishing. I thought she is doing some emotional work that is really driving the movie, in my opinion. Kenneth Branagh is also doing a little bit more than in the first one, I think, and I think that's purposeful. I think he wants the character to be a little more than just the caricature, and so he's trying to deepen that character and give it some pathos. And some of that works. Most of that works for me. Some of it doesn't. But I think he's a really gifted actor. So that's some of the good stuff I had. What about you guys?
I really like the cast in this as well. Some people that I thought were going to be more braggadocious or flamboyant were some of the most self-controlled and subtle performances there were. Russell Brand.
I was going to say, talk about Russell Brand without talking about Russell Brand.
Exactly.
That is him. Yeah.
But it serves the role well. I think that if you're gonna show that you have acting range, subtlety is something that a lot of people overlook. You know, they think, okay, so I got to be really funny or really sad, really intense. Subtlety is one of those very overlooked categories of being a well-rounded actor. So Russell, you did it, and I really enjoyed your character. Again, Poirot is the one. Kenneth Branagh is the one who's chewing scenery in this movie. He is there to serve this way too big of a cast. And I know that's not his fault. If all the people are from Agatha Christie's book, then he can't control that. But
right. Yeah. What about you, Alice? What are some thoughts?
Yeah, I think you guys touched on that. I did want to bring up Emma Mackey or McKay. Her performance was definitely the standout for me, as well as Russell Brand, because I feel like I just keep thinking of Get Him to the Greek, and then I saw that, and I'm just like, oh, or Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm like, oh, who's this person? The other thing, and of course the cinematography, because but I will also touch on that in a moment. But the other thing I actually do like is it's a mystery that actually has clues that are without the. So I won't say what or how.
Sure.
But if you were to go back and watch it, you would actually pick up on them. So I was talking with the group I went with afterwards, and there are certain ones, like, as much as I'm a huge fan of Sherlock, there are the clues aren't there until Sherlock's like, this bit of ash comes from this year, which is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
While this is like, there were moments, because I'd read the book, so I already knew what happened. But my Toby, my partner, he turned to me many times being like, that's going to be important later down the line, and then it was important later down the line. And so I actually appreciate a mystery in general, and also a murder mystery where it actually does allow for someone to figure it out if they pay attention. I think that that's important, so that it's not just like, they're intelligent for intelligence sake, so that was something that I actually appreciated.
Yeah. How did we feel about the opening with Kenneth Branagh making Belfast 1.5 for
I didn't want to spoil it. I had this in spoilers, but let me just say, you don't need an origin story for everything. Can I just say that?
Yeah. I don't mind it. It's just it was so much. There was so much of it. That's my only thing. It
dragged on.
Yeah. It kept us from getting to.
I would say that about the movie. One of my cons, if we're going there, is just or my negatives is just that this murder mystery took a long time to murder mystery.
It took a long time to murder.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so again, I hate to bring it back, but in the book, that's not the book thing. That's not that's the original story. The original story, it's quite quick. It's
is it?
This happens. Yeah, it just kind of goes straight into it. And so this one spends a lot of time on these storylines where I'm like, but I'm at a murder mystery, aren't I?
There's 11 quote unquote suspects, and they spend so much time building up motive for every single one of them instead of having the investigation divulge the motivations and alibis,
Yeah. I mean, it does a little from column A and a little from column B. I mean, it's not as if the investigations don't reveal motives, but it does spend a lot of time prepping you for that stuff, for sure. Couple other standouts that I wanted to mention, because this obviously is a big cast. Sophie Okonedo, who played... I thought she was great in this. And then I also wanted to mention French and Saunders, who are a comic pair and also a pair in this movie. And I thought that was really, really interesting. It was Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French. So yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. Other thoughts? What do you got?
So while I really liked Kenneth Branagh's performance, I also didn't like it was also a negative for me. It was both a positive and a negative in that he was really good, because Kenneth Branagh is a really good actor. He's fantastic.
Sure.
But for me, the point of Poirot is that he's not overly emotional. Like there's a certain type, he's a certain type of character. And I just think he did it a little bit in Murder on the Orient Express, and that was fine. That was like a good amount to, show off a little bit of acting and like kind of integrate him within the story a little bit. But I just feel like he just went so much more intense on the like, going on rants and losing himself and having these big moments of anger and emotion. And I was just there like, this isn't Poirot. This isn't what I haven't come to see, the like big emotional play. I've come to see a genius detective who's a little bit quirky and a little bit fun. That was important for me because I just, if I wanted something else, I would see something else. But Poirot is one of those characters that have literally been adapted 8 bajillion times. And I also get that maybe this is him trying to put his own spin on it. But I think, like I said, I think the way he did it on the Murder on the Orient Express, where he did touches of emotion, that was perfect. But I think he inserted himself into the conflict almost too much and then reacted to it too much. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this.
I kind of disagree with that. The emotion I saw, I thought the movie did a fairly decent job. And as much as I think that first part went on too long, it definitely gives us a little bit of grounding foundation for why he is who he is now. And then I think the movie gave us good reasons for why he became something else. Like, I think the movie, unless I'm misremembering the order of events, I do think for the most part, most of what you see in that emotional aspect of him happens in a place in the movie that makes sense to me. It makes a little bit of sense to me. I think the movie at least gave it a good effort to make that emotional journey make sense. But I might be missing some of that.
You can be wrong. It's fine.
It happens every once in a while. It's all right.
There's certain elements that I will mention in spoilers. But
there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Reasons for that.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
absolutely.
That was the thing. Can I also say, in terms of performances,
sure.
Armie Hammer's accent was just. Let's not just cast a British actor. I'm just like.
I thought he was supposed to be American.
No, there's too many British actors playing Americans.
Honestly, I thought he was supposed to be like just a well-spoken American.
I think isn't that the case? Was he supposed to be British?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Because he kind of had the same he carried himself very much like a Winklevi,
Mm-hmm.
and I use Winklevi in the
plural.
In the plural. Yes.
Yeah. Andrew, did you have anything else?
I think, and I don't want it to come across as like I didn't enjoy the movie. I did, but it was kind of a very. Paint by numbers is not the right word. Not the right word. But by the end of it there were so many twists and turns that by the end I was just tired, and I just wanted to find out like, it's who I thought initially. So yeah, we can wrap this up.
Without giving anything away, how did you guys feel about the resolution? I guess I should start with you, Alice, since you've read the book. Is it the same as the book, or did they switch it up a little bit, or?
Yeah,
I guess that's kind of spoilery. I guess that's kind of spoilery, yeah.
No. I will say the murderer, I'll just say that, was accurate. That is what it was in the book. I mean, if you've read the book, then you shouldn't be worried about spoilers because you've read the book.
See, I don't know. I don't know how that, as an illiterate person, I don't know how that necessarily works with these movies. I didn't know if they would change up the actual murderer or those kind of things.
I think with this, like with murder mysteries, I'd imagine that it's more like you can change things within it, but the end result kind of has to stay the same because that's, the point. Like, I mean, Murder on the Orient Express is the same, where it's like the point is that result.
Conclusion, right? Got it.
And so that's the same with this one. The result was the same. The way in which it's revealed has obviously similarities, but again, I will say it ties into that emotionalness a little bit more than it does in the book. So it's more about that like emotional reveal rather than just like, I figured it out sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'll say this.
Andrew gives politics thumbs. Yes.
The reason why I think Murder on the Orient Express, the film, works better than this is because, can we spoil Murder on the Orient Express?
That is fine with me. I mean, it's 3 years old or more.
Everybody, if you don't want it skipped, then just move ahead. And it's not
Sure.
even a reveal of who done it; it's who it was done to.
Yeah.
The thing with Johnny Depp's character is he was really they didn't spend any backstory on him or time for us getting to know him. He was revealed as one of the players. Like any of these people could be the one to die. And then who's left over it was very cluish. And I'm saying all these things knowing that Agatha Christie is one of the founders of this genre. So whenever I make comparisons like to Clue or to like any other, I know that that's, flipped on its own head. So like, but like, I like the fact that in Murder on the Orient Express, it was very much of, so this one guy who we didn't even get to spend that much time knowing is the one whose murder we have to solve now. And then you get to know his backstory, and then you get to find out all the things about him. Whereas in this movie, one of the very prominent people that we're spending so much time getting to know is the one who is murdered. And then you just get more exposition on top of afterwards. And I'm like, all the things that you're repeating right now have already been established. Therefore, you could have foregone them in the beginning. And I'm not saying the movie needed to be I'm not saying the movie needed to be shorter, but it did.
But what I am saying is the movie needed to be shorter. Yes, exactly.
And can I just say to the people in the comments who are saying, "Oh, it sometimes changes," as soon as the movie starts to get into the story, you know that they haven't changed the ending if you've read the book. So this wasn't like a massive spoiler that I have
Good to know.
Confirmed.
Good to know.
Just so you know, as soon as the characters are presented, you're just like, "Oh, okay, they've kept that the same.
They've kept the overall plot."
Yeah. I think say that.
I think this movie is clunky. I think what we're getting at is there is some clunkiness to how it is spending so much time doing the things it thinks it needs to do, and getting to the places it needs to get. It's just a little bit clunky.
But we need to reiterate, I would recommend this movie. It's fun.
Yeah, totally. And I was going to finish with this positive for me. I actually really like the murder mystery part. And of course, we won't spoil this until the spoilers, but I really like where it goes. I kind of like the themes that are presented with it. I genuinely like it. So I wanted to mention that as well.
It is a good murder mystery. Sometimes it's just fun to watch a murder mystery. It doesn't have to be perfect. So if you're into whodunits, this is definitely worth watching.
Yep, totally. Any final things?
No post-credit scene.
That is true. All right. Well, there you go. That is Death on the Nile. It is available in theaters. Let's move on to a television show. Look at this. We're going to review some TV.
I don't know what that is.
Let's talk a little bit about the Book of Boba Fett. On the sands of Tatooine, bounty hunter Boba Fett and mercenary Fennec Shand navigate the galaxy's underworld and fight for Jabba the Hutt's old territory. This is a spin-off of The Mandalorian and is on Disney Plus. I believe 7 episodes. 7 episodes. I think we've all seen all 7. And because of that, I will say this, and we've said this when we reviewed television before, there will not be a SIF spoil on this. We will spoil this show from beginning to end in the review. It's really the only way we found that we have something to talk about when we review seasons of TV. If you do not want to hear about the Book of Boba Fett with some of the things that happen and some of the spoilers, and there are some doozies, then we would encourage you to fast forward to the next segment, because when we review TV, we do spoil things. Let's start here. Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Alice, kick us off this time. What did you think?
I really, really liked it.
Okay. Strong like. Andrew?
Yeah, I think I will go with high side of liked it. Close to really liked it. but just high side of liked it.
I'm at straight liked it, maybe low side of liked it. Whichever one I go with, I'm putting a giant asterisk after it with a notation. And that is because there's really only 5 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett in this season.
Thank you. It's the book of mostly Boba Fett.
Yeah, that is the main thing. I don't understand. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. And that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's just really confusing to me why it's done this way.
I don't watch a season of The Simpsons and then the second half is Family Guy. That is not how it works.
Yeah. I mean, technically, Family Guy's not a spinoff of The Simpsons, but maybe you don't watch the Family Guy and see what, I don't know. Was there a Family Guy spinoff?
They've done a combo episode where the Simpsons met the Family Guy.
Yeah. That's a little bit different, but it is.
No, it is.
But it is like, it would be like, in this, I had a friend say this. It would be like you're watching Frasier and all of a sudden there's a couple episodes of Cheers, but with nobody from Frasier in them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what is going on here? Like, what is this? Now, having said that, I think they're the best 2 episodes of the season. So, like, it's like, how do I...
Disagree.
What's that?
Disagree about the best episodes of the season.
Andrew, what did you say?
I said, what does that say about the other 5 episodes?
So do you agree that those 2 are the best of the season?
Here's the thing. Yes, because Mandalorian has had 2 full seasons now to establish an emotional driving force for these characters. So whenever we go back to it, it feels comfortable. This was Boba Fett's season. This was supposed to set in stone an emotional arc for this character. And whenever you abandon that emotional arc, it feels like you don't think that there was enough of this character to portray a story or to tell a really good story.
Since we like to try to start positive, Alice, I would like you to tell me about the other episodes you enjoyed, because I really didn't care much for the actual Book of Boba Fett, but I really liked the 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. But go ahead and tell us about what you liked about Book of Boba Fett.
Okay, well, don't get me wrong. I loved those 2 episodes. Like, Baby Yoda's the greatest thing in the entire world. So, of course, but I personally got the most affected by, I think, is it episode 3, the one where we really, really get to hone in on the Tusken Raider lore. And I know that some people haven't been on it, but like the fact that they took what were essentially sand terrorists who got a little bit of development in Mandalorian, and then we really learned about their lore. We learned about characters that you literally never see their face, but you feel for them. You know the differences in their personalities. And when, okay, we can do spoilers, right? So when they all get massacred, it is heartbreaking. Like, I was so affected by that entire storyline. I thought it was so powerful. And I also think it explains why Boba Fett goes from, enough for why he goes from merciless mercenary into someone who cares when we see him in Mandalorian. Because I think that was something people were like, wasn't he meant to be just like a badass who's never cared that much? And it's like, he learned to have feelings. So, and I love world building, and I just thought that was such interesting world building. Like, it made sense to me, and I really enjoyed it. So I really liked that. I think it was episode 3 where it was like really kind of focusing in on that whole storyline.
Yeah, because I think it was episode 4 was like the Power Rangers episode. I think that was the one with the most Vespas. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go,
but,
the slowest chase scene
terrible.
ever.
That chase scene was terrible. It was so bad. I don't know. Here's one thing I find interesting about this Boba Fett experience. Everything we know about Boba Fett is based, I shouldn't say everything, but if you're going by just movie canon, everything we know about Boba Fett is just like a couple scenes, a couple seconds. We don't know that he's a heartless mercenary. We just know that he caught Han Solo and brought him to Jabba. Like, that's all we literally know.
With Django.
Right, but that's kind of setting up some like backstory, right? Like that's not that's more about what we know about Jango than what we know about Boba, right? Other than this kind of sets the stage for him in some ways. So it's interesting to me that the show felt like it had to do some character, like adjustment on him, because we really don't know who he is. He could have been the same kind of person before he went into the Sarlacc pit. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of one of those interesting things for me. I didn't like the Tusken stuff. I didn't understand the walking around the desert. It was just so much walking in sand and walking back in sand, and now we're on animals walking in sand, and it's just like it's just like, can we please move on? I don't understand the connection. Somebody needs to help me understand, like, what is it some sort of what's that name for when you start falling in love with your captors?
Oh, you're thinking of the Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, is it some sort of Stockholm syndrome? Like this group of people were terrible to him. Like
I think it was a humility thing. Humility.
What do you mean by a humility thing?
Like, from what I've read and stuff about Boba Fett. So he was, one of the best and wealthiest bounty hunters ever. So for him to be humbled and brought down to a more, ground level. I was trying not to do a pun, but like a sandy ground level. Yeah. But it showed that it gave a character that was never known really for having a heart the ability to show range and emotion, because that's one of the things. I understand
what they're trying to do. I don't think it makes sense on a relationship level. I don't think it makes sense the way they treated him and the way that they used him as a slave. That this was something that all of a sudden, because he was willing to, stand up for one of their kids or something, and now they're just like best buds, and just like now he's one of us and leading and
honor. I think it's showing honor. It's about like the Tusken Raiders, they do explain, they've just been attacked by everybody, so of course they're not going to trust anyone else. But it shows that although he's, been not the nicest human being in the world, there's still an element of honor to him. And so when he protects this kid, they're like, he's not totally bad. And then I think it's just, from what we know about Boba Fett, yes, he had a relationship, obviously, with his father/clone dad. But it wasn't, the idea of family is kind of foreign to him. The idea of protecting those just because you want to protect them and not because of, like, it's out of a sense of duty or a sense of money. I just think it was about developing his character to the point where you're not just protecting someone because you've been paid to, you're protecting someone because it's the right thing to do. And I think that it gives him that ability so that when we see him later on as, the daimyo of the city,
Mos
you
Espa.
believe that of Mos Espa, thank you. I was like, it's not Tatooine, it's not the entire planet. But when you see him as this, you believe that he would actually respect and protect the people that he takes under his wing, like the mods, like Fennec Shand, that he would save Fennec Shand, that he has this experience and then wants to build his own version of that, of people that who have been misunderstood, that haven't had places to go, and he can bring them together and build somewhere better for these people, because at half the time these people are just misunderstood, just like the Tusken Raiders. That's what I saw it as.
Yeah.
But if he's learning from them, there's one of two options. Either he's learning from them, or he is teaching, and I know it goes both ways, but I mean overall, like somebody is changing if these are the two options. Because how he operates is with mercy and grace and the ability for somebody to come alongside. Like when he meets the Go-Go Power Rangers, whatever, I don't remember, the mods. When he meets them, he doesn't enslave them and, drag them behind banthas and tie them to posts. He brings them along and says, okay, I'm going to empower you, right? Like I'm going to be this person for you. Well, that's not something you learned from the Tuskens. That wasn't something that they were all about. That's not what they did. And so
yes, they were. They were scared. They were scared of everyone else. And so then he learned about them and got integrated with them, just like the mods were scared and literally didn't have water. Like, that's what it is.
Well, that's what I'm
saw
saying.
past that.
That's what I'm saying. So what you're saying is the option is that he changed Tuscan culture. That when after he became friends with them, the Tuscan way changed.
It was a teacher
the
being
Tuscan-
teached kind of segment.
Yeah.
And
I think he didn't change them. I think that he changed them in the way that they were willing to trust others. I think they were always the same within the people they trust. But this is probably the first time this particular tribe has ever opened up to anyone that's not a Tuscan Raider. And unfortunately, besides the massacre, they were going to be for the better for it. You know, if they hadn't.
Well, we find out they weren't.
Well,
they were never going to be the better for it. It was, and so that's another reason. Like, why is Boba Fett who he is? If he's looking for vengeance, fine. Like, I get the idea of vengeance, but he should also never trust anyone ever again. There's no reason he should trust the mods. There's no reason, like all of this setup they're doing for his character.
The Tusken Raiders didn't betray him. They didn't betray him. They got betrayed.
Think of it like
this. Well,
this.
That's what I'm saying, but he's teaching them to trust other people, and the people he's teaching them to trust killed them all. Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how he looks at that and goes, oh, trusting people's a good idea. He looks at that and goes, oh, I was wrong. You can't trust other people because it killed everybody I loved. Like, I don't understand it.
I think we're starting from the wrong idea of who Boba Fett was beforehand. And correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever Obi-Wan goes to that planet where they were making all the clones, didn't the higher alien creatures say that as they were making clones that they were removing emotional handcuffs from all the clones, that they were really just following orders? And that Boba was one of those clones, obviously, but he had like heightened senses and stuff like that.
And there's some of that stuff in Clone Wars and in what's the animated one? No, the new animated one.
Oh, Bad Batch.
Yeah, Bad Batch. There's some of that stuff in Bad Batch too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I'm getting at is if he is one of these beings, and I know there's going to be, if I'm wrong, then there's somebody in the chat who will correct me. Because that's what it's for. And
that's what it's there for.
I want to be right, obviously, but if he is one of these beings who is just without, emotions and stuff, I think that we are not seeing a change of emotions whenever he's with the Tuscans. I think we're seeing a birth of emotions. Like, and you can even go back before the Tuscans when he's in the Sarlacc.
Sure.
Whenever he's breaking out of the Sarlacc, don't tell me you don't see any rebirth metaphors in that whole segment.
Oh, totally. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that is possibly what we are seeing. We're not seeing a character relearning who he is. It's a character finally learning who he is.
Correct. And I don't think who he learns in his backstory makes any sense with who he is in the rest of the show. I don't think they go together.
I'm already being told in the chat that he was an unaltered clone, so he was a clone of Jango with emotions from the beginning. So that whole rant I just did.
He would have stamped them down. I mean, you can't be in grow up in the environment you grow up in and do the job you do without seriously banging down those emotions, which I think is part of the reason why Mandalorian was so effective, because it's like the same with him. He had nothing.
Right.
He didn't care. And then but Grogu came along, and then it's like, oh my God, what is this? It's something I care about more than the way. And I think that this is his version. And I think someone in the chat says something very, very, I think exactly what my point is, that Boba sees the normals of Tatooine as the Tuscans, getting screwed over by power. And then he's like, I'm gonna treat him better so that this doesn't happen again. I think this is what it is. He doesn't want it to happen again. He's seen it happen. He's seen the Pikes come in, take what they want, the spice, which I have to say, with Dune having come out being all about spice, and now they've really gone hard on the spice in this. I was like, interesting.
The spice, Malone.
Yeah. But I think that's it. I think he's like, well, I know that I can do this again, but I'm never going to let the outcome happen again. I think that that's it for me, and I think that it's shown in the way that every single one of the characters that he recruits are all, not very nice people until they're part of this family, if you were, including the Rancor. Like, Rancor is literally famous for being horrifying, and he rides it and it's like a giant
panther.
puppy. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like a whole thing. So I think the mods, Fennec Shand, I mean, even Mandalorian. I mean, by that point, he's already kind of redeemed and everything, but he's part of it for sure. And even the mayor, like the mayor's assistant. I feel like we're gonna see him in Mandalorian as like the partner of the fixer. I feel like he's gonna become like a character now because he's also been redeemed as a result of being part of Boba's new world order. And so I think that that's what it is. He's like seen the cracks and he wants to pave them over because no one ever did that for him.
Well, I don't want to belabor on this. We've got so much more to talk about. I think this is just something we'll disagree on. I will say the other aspect of this, the other reason I don't like all the flashbacks is because they do take time away from our ability to actually get invested in what's going on in modern Tatooine, and I felt like that stuff felt really underdeveloped because of that. I understand what this show is trying to do, and I actually think it's admirable. And in the first 15 minutes of this show are dialogue free. I love that kind of stuff, like that, like the escape from the Sarlacc, all that kind of stuff. I was definitely in. So
I was hoping against hope we would see him escaping the Sarlacc because that's one of the biggest talked about off-screen moments in Star Wars, and we finally get to see it, and it was really cool. And I was like, oh, what's he gonna look like? When he's being digested and he's just all melted and stuff.
Yeah. So the point of the show, if you're looking at modern Tatooine, is Boba finds his cadre, right? Like that's the point. Boba is finding his team. And his team is gonna make the final stand. Yes, his family, whatever.
There's something they never mentioned. Boba went into the Sarlacc when there was an empire, and he came out when there wasn't.
It might have happened in and around the Tusken Raider element too, maybe.
Yeah, it could have.
I don't know.
It's true.
Somebody will correct us.
My daddy was hanging out in the Sarlacc for like 3 weeks.
But okay, think of it like his leading principles in comparison to the Empire, because that section obviously takes place after the Empire has been destroyed and everything, because we see Luke again and everything like that. And I know we're going to talk about those 2 episodes, but maybe he is basing his new philosophy on leading on the follies of the Empire. He's like, this is how obviously that style, Jabba's style didn't work, the Empire's style didn't work.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. And that, to me, that's the more interesting story. Like, I didn't need the flashbacks. The getting out of the Sarlacc pit was great. That was fine. We just spent so much time on the Tusken stuff, and maybe it's just because it didn't work for me as much as it worked for you guys. But I was just like, all of it felt like, I shouldn't say all of it, so much of it felt like wasted time to me. When we could have been developing more of what was actually going on with those themes about, the Empire and that kind of stuff. So. Yeah.
I think, that is going to be one of the areas where we're just going to have to disagree on, because I think Alice and I, we love the Tusken stuff.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right, Andrew. Just like before,
hey, you know what?
Aaron can be wrong. It's fine.
We've both got people in the chat backing both sides up. So it's good. Our voices will be heard by the people who need to hear them. Let's talk about those 2 episodes of The Mandalorian 2.5.
Grogu, I love him so much. He's the best little thingy in the world. And the moment when him and Mando are reunited again, and he force projects himself into his face. Oh my god, I wanted to just cry.
And then he gives him
so much.
He gives him the shifter knob.
Yeah, oh, that was so cute. And then I just love it, even at the end when he calms down the Rancor, and then he just passes out next to it. I was like,
he just cuddles up. He cuddles up next to a Rancor, and he somehow makes a Rancor adorable just by being in his presence.
I have to say, I get the way the last season ended, and it was amazing. But I'm really happy they're back together because I just love their dynamics so much. I just love Mando and Grogu so much.
Can I talk about something I loved and hated?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Cad Bane.
Oh, interesting.
I loved whenever he was introduced.
I love Cobb
And
Vanth, so I loved all that stuff. Like, I think Timothy Oliphant's incredible.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we know you saw the post-credit scene, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. So he's coming back. Don't worry. But Cad Bane, he's been in Clone Wars, and I think he was also in Bad Batch too. But I've loved Cad Bane. He's such a cool character. And I don't know if did they kill him off? Is he dead?
No, he's
No.
not dead.
You don't
There's
think
no
Cad
way.
Bane's dead?
The camera was on him a little too long, and you heard it be like beep beep, like you heard the little whatever machine. I haven't
Yeah.
seen Clone Wars, so that was my introduction to him. Although really cool character design, I have to say. Like,
Oh, he is such a cool character. He is.
yeah.
Honestly, for a while, I thought that Cad Bane. This is before they did like Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian and stuff. Back whenever all we knew from Boba Fett was Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, really. But for a while there, I thought Cad Bane was going to be like my favorite bounty hunter in like all of Star Wars because he was actually growing a backstory and everything like that. But yeah. Now it's Mando. Mando is now my favorite bounty hunter.
Oh, I love him. Pedro Pascal. I'm just applauding.
At least Pedro Pascal's voice. At least his voice. We don't know who's actually in the suit, but
let me say this. Lollipops is asking about the end credit scene. The end credit scene, we see Cobb Vanth in the tank being healed.
Back to tank.
Yeah, the back to tank.
Yeah.
He's probably having some sort of flashbacks about a water planet, and it's just going to be swimming through water over it. I'm sorry. I apologize. We'll continue.
We've moved on from that.
I think this is why this season is so confusing, because these two episodes had so much life to them and so much direction to them. And then, the stuff on the Boba Fett stuff felt the opposite. Felt like, too little butter spread over too much bread. It felt like there wasn't really enough to really justify those other 5 episodes. And also we kind of got like an episode of Jedi Training Academy prequel.
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, I enjoyed that. How did we feel about CG Luke Skywalker? How are we dealing with this now that he's like not just fighting with a lightsaber? He's like a talking character and all that stuff.
He looked better, but I still didn't see. I think they were afraid to do too like much emotion.
Oh yeah,
because he seemed very
which works for a Jedi. I mean,
it does. But on the other hand, we've seen so much. Emotion carry Luke throughout the entire original trilogy. So being an expressionless, I don't want to say deadpan because that's the wrong word, but a deadpan-ish, persona. And the reason why they're doing it like that is the limitations of the visual effects technology. It's not for the character's benefit, and that kind of takes you out of the show a little bit. The limitations of
we're dealing with a couple things here. We're dealing first of all with it just slipped my mind. What's it called when you face replace? There's a name for that. Deepfake. Yeah, we're dealing with the deepfake face replacement thing, right? Which is incredible how close we are getting with that stuff. And then you're also dealing with deepfake audio, right? You're dealing with like that voice is young Mark Hamill. No, it's young Mark.
I say old Mark Hamill.
Right, yeah.
The old movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So both those technologies are really, really close, but I think they know they're not where it can just be a full, quicker, kind of thing. And I think for the most part, it really works. And beyond that, to me, it is this is a crucial moment in pop culture construction, because I think we will look back at this Luke Skywalker character in The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, and it will be seen as the precursor to what movies and television will become 30 years from now, or 20 years from now, or however long it takes to perfect the technology. Any actor of any age, of any time, can be cast in any movie.
Aren't they
And
doing a James Dean movie this year?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We are at the turning point. We are absolutely 100% at the turning point. You are experiencing history right now. I don't think a lot of people realize when they watch that scene that there's more to it than, oh, cool, look, they kind of brought Luke Skywalker back. No, no, no. You are experiencing the future of
Yeah.
filmmaking right now.
I think that actors and actresses are going to have to sign posthumous licenses.
They already are.
Yeah.
They
Usage
already are.
rights. Yeah.
And most agents have their actors do full, 8K body scans, whatever, so that they are ready for when they can sell their digital likeness and, be cast in a movie and not. I mean, I joke about who knows who's in the suit, for Pedro Pascal. But that is probably in the contract. Like Pedro's like, I'll be there on those days I have to take my helmet off, but you can put I'll do the voice thing, but you can put somebody else in the suit. You know what I mean? Like, and that'll be the same for digital. Use my digital thing and pay me this much, as opposed to paying me to be there, which is going to cost you a lot more. It is the future of where we're heading, like it or not. And I think there are some cool things about it, but there are also some things, that you feel are lost, right? You feel like there's a loss of something tangential when we head that direction. But I watched that and I was like, oh, this is it. This is, pay attention. This is the future. And I found it pretty amazing. And we haven't mentioned Ahsoka. Ahsoka shows up. Like, everybody is showing up in this thing.
Instead of this being a season of, setting a foundation for, a new story arc, it ended up being this culmination of loose hanging threads from other shows. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, the thing that we didn't cover, here, real quick, we'll take care of that. It's disappointing in the sense that I wanted a Book of Boba Fett show, and I got Book of 5/7 Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But I would, on this, I think it's very purposeful that they've called it the Book of Boba Fett, because it did, to me, make sense as a novella where it's like, I've been reading the series of Mandalorian, and now this companion novel has come out, and it's about Boba Fett, and most of it is, but obviously it's the companion series to this other bigger series. I want to know what's happened with this. Here's a few chapters from this guy's perspective, because we know that you love him, but then we'll pull it all together at the end. Like, that's the way I was maybe that's why I was totally fine with it, because I'm so used to that as well. And because I do read a lot. But on that, something that I will actually say is that with the whole Jedi thing, there were elements where I was like, how is this going to work based on what we know from the sequels? You know what I mean? So I felt like Grogu had to pick Mandalorian, because otherwise he dies, right? Like, isn't that?
Yeah, we all knew what was going down. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then,
and also Mandalorian, like the TV show Mandalorian dies without Grogu. Like, they need him in that show.
Exactly. Well, there's that. But then also, I think it's really interesting that the reason why Grogu goes back to Mando is because of the emotion thing. And I'm very, it's not that I don't get it, but I wouldn't have expected Luke to uphold the whole Jedis don't have attachments thing, because we know from the sequels that Luke literally has nothing but attachments until he goes all wrong and then, goes away to a small island in the middle of nowhere. But not only he teaches his sister, who is married with a child, to be a Jedi. He obviously still has a relationship with his sister. He cares about it. He obviously develops a relationship with his nephew. So this whole Jedis don't have attachments is I didn't see that as being part of Luke's teaching philosophy, because I would have thought that, I apologize if you can hear my dogs. But yeah, I would have thought that his experience fighting the Empire would have made him less attuned to that whole experience of being a Jedi. Isn't that part of the reason why the Jedi Order fell in the first place? So I thought that was interesting that
I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed to Jedi 2.0, whatever that looks like post Rey or whatever, where Jedi 2.0 is understanding how to incorporate the balance of attachments in those kind of things with the Force. And I think what we're setting up for is for Luke to learn that. Right now he's in a stage where he's trying to honor what was taught to him. It's really fresh for him what Yoda taught him, you know? And this is what Yoda taught him and Obi-Wan taught him, and this is his heroes, this is what they believed. And so it makes complete sense to me that he's wanting to find that for himself. But I think there will be something that will happen that will open him up to the idea that there's a different way, or, you know, that he can loosen some of that, or whatever the case may be. And then eventually, of course, the stuff with Ben Solo will happen, and that'll just send him off, you know, and that will send him off the whole thing. So that's actually a really beautiful progression for Luke to go from, oh, I'm going to do it just the way the people who taught me did it, to, oh, maybe I don't have to do it this, okay, maybe, you know, and then finally just losing his faith and just being like, no, I guess it's all junk. It's all nonsense.
It's interesting to know that where we're seeing Luke and Grogu right now is leading to this new series that we had with Rey and Kylo Ren. That's how who Luke is going to become throughout the show potentially.
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to get our first instance of a Grey Jedi. Fingers crossed.
I think so.
What if Grogu becomes a Grey Jedi?
That's what I'm thinking. And I'm also wondering, like, how are they going to explain, while the end of the world was happening, Mando and Grogu were off having tea on another galaxy. Like, I just think that's a bit of a prequel-itis thing where it's like, okay, but what happened there? Like, they would have been alive. Grogu definitely would have been alive. So there was that. But I would love, I was thinking in the sequels that Rey was going to become a Grey Jedi. So I would really, really love it if they actually finally did that, because I think that's such a fascinating story that they haven't explored yet. Like, I just think that that's so interesting, and this would be a great sort of progression. Oh, I do have to say as well, as much as I love Grogu, and I love Grogu, I wonder how long they're going to keep him as a baby, and when he's going to finally start to, like,
forever, right?
He'll be a baby for a very long time.
Yeah, he'll be a baby for hundreds of years. Like, so I think he's basically he's basically a 3-year-old, right? Like, it feels like somewhere in that 3 to 4. Like, you can communicate, but you're still not really talking. You know, I guess lots of babies are talking by 3, just not really clearly. But
this is going to sound
he's
awful.
Walking.
I don't want Grogu to ever
that happens
learn
about
words.
2. Yeah,
I don't want Grogu to ever learn words. I just want
I just want to know if the Yoda thing is just a Yoda thing, or if it's a species thing.
Well, you know what's interesting? Yeah, I'm just now thinking about this, and we probably do need to finish up our conversation on the show. But I am just thinking that aging and maturity is about learning, and learning shouldn't be about lifespan. Learning should be about moments. So he genuinely should be learning to walk and talk and those kind of things at the same pace as any other creature. It's just that the lifespan is different. So I don't know about, like, adolescence and that kind of stuff. But as far as, like, actually just learning how to talk, why wouldn't he learn at the same speed how to speak? That's a moment by moment thing. Anyway, that thought just kind of hit me. So
species stubbornment.
Sure. Whatever the case.
Well, we know he can do the one-legged, like, pose thing, and he can do flips, but he can't talk.
Right, but he can't talk? Okay, all right, fair enough.
I love when Luke, though, is like, yes, Yoda, he was like you, and he spoke in riddles. And I was like, I don't know if those were riddles. He just didn't speak his words in the right
It was
order.
just different syntax. That's all that was.
I don't know if that's a riddle, Luke, but okay. Like,
all right, let's finish this up with literally one more thing. You get one more thing to talk about with this show. Andrew, do you have one thing to talk about?
Yeah, I just learned 8D8, who was the servant droid at a Jabba's palace, is Matt Berry, who plays Laszlo in What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, nice.
One more thing.
Oh, did I really? That's insane.
I got so excited because I love Matt Berry. I watch everything Matt Berry is in. He's one of my favorite actors.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's really funny because he's got this new show called Toast of Tinseltown, which if you haven't seen it, it's great. He plays an actor in LA, and the whole series arc has him being like, "I'm going to be in the new Star Wars film," and then everyone's like, "Yeah, sure." Like that's the response to all of them. And then when I was watching this, and I was like, "Oh, it's Matt Berry." Anyway, I'll jump off your one more thing. Yeah, I was very excited by that.
And not the same football Matt Berry.
I don't even know that football Matt Berry, so you're that is not something I understand. But I'm sure there are many members of our audience who caught that reference for sure. My one last thing is we have gotten through this entire conversation about Book of Boba Fett and somehow not spent any time on Fennec Shand. So that will be my one one last thing is just saying how much I love that character, how much I love
Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah, Ming-Na Wen, and just so excited to see her. I think her character ends they end her in a really interesting place, going full murderer or assassin. Let's say full assassin at the end. It's clear she disagrees with Boba Fett. I think she gives life to this show. I think without her, it would have seemed really, really dull. So yeah, I wanted to mention Ming-Na Wen and her incredible work in this show.
And
so yes, we know there's a lot we missed. It was 7 full episodes, but we got to move on at some point. So let's do that. Before we do, though, just a reminder that you can be a member of SifPop at Patreon. Patreon.com/SifPop is where you would go to do that. We do a bonus podcast for our members, a bonus ad-free podcast for our members at certain levels. And this week we talked about the Oscar nominations. So if you're curious what we thought about the Oscar noms, you can check that out as a SiftPop member, and that is at patreon.com/SiftPop. All right, let's move on to the best ever challenge. We are doing best ever Kenneth Branagh movies, and these are ones he's acted in, not directed. Really only a handful of movies, so there will be certainly some repeats here. He's been around for a long time to only have done less than 10 movies or whatever it is, or at least well-known ones.
A lot of Shakespeare.
A lot of Shakespeare, and certainly understandable. We'll go number 5 to number 1. Trump rules, of course, apply. There'll probably be a lot of trumping in this one. I'll kick us off. My number 5 is Murder on the Orient Express.
Me too!
Well, Andrew's going to trump us both. Andrew, what is your number 5?
The Road to El Dorado.
Oh, interesting.
Honorable mentions.
Nice. Talk about it.
This. I don't think this is a Disney animated film.
No,
I think this is it's
DreamWorks, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a fun movie, and the art style, the whole Mayan, the way that they brought that culture to like an animated, it was fascinating. I loved it. And then there's also the impending doom of the conquistadors. I had a lot of fun. I think I forget who the other actor besides Kenneth Branagh was in The Road to El Dorado.
Kevin Kline.
Kevin Kline, thank you. Yeah, I think the chemistry between those guys, the quick-witted back and forth, was just fun. It's a fun movie.
Nice. I think it's a good choice. I haven't seen it forever, so it would be hard for me to comment on. But yeah, nicely done. All right, on to our number 4s then, since we have the same number 5s. My number 4 is Dunkirk.
Same.
Trump.
Oh, this is fun. Isn't this fun? All right, this time it's Alice trumping both of our number 4s. So, Alice, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Much Ado About Nothing.
Trump. All right, let's move on to our number 3s. We knew it was going to be like this. We're on to our number 3s, and we've talked about one movie. So, my number 3, I don't think will get dropped. I'll be very happy if it does, but my number 3 is Swing Kids. I absolutely love this movie, legendarily so.
I'm surprised you didn't have it higher. I'm not gonna lie.
No, listen, I'll be honest about this. It's certainly not better than some other of his movies, but he's actually not even credited in this movie, which is interesting. And I think we've talked about that before. I wonder if it's because he was playing a Nazi and early on in his career and didn't kind of want to be associated with that. I don't know. That's total conjecture. But yes, Robert Sean Leonard, Christian Bale, young Christian Bale, doing swing dancing and fighting against each other. One entering the Nazi youth program, one who starts to buy into it, one who is holding on to their rebellion from it, and kind of how they reckon with that together. It is, I think, really, really well done. So, Swing Kids is my number 3.
Nice.
Andrew, what's your number 3?
This is where I have Murder on the Orient Express.
All right, so
Yeah.
Alice and I had it at number 5, and you had it at number 3. What do you think?
Well, I was expecting, another whodunit murder mystery sort of thing, but I was not ready for the visual beauty of the movie. How each train car had its own personality. Kind of like, but not tonally the same as Snowpiercer, how like every new set piece, felt like a fresh new thing, because we go back and forth between these train cars. I think the acting is great. It's just a beautiful movie, and it is my favorite Agatha Christie murder.
Yeah,
and it's the only one I've read. So,
Alice, any thoughts?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's just such a classic murder mystery. I love it so much. It's, you know what, this movie's just really fun to watch, ironically, because it's about murder, but you just want to sit down, watch a cool murder, see the detective figure it out. Plus I do love the quirkiness of how the way that he really showcases Poirot's like little idiosyncrasies. I think Kenneth Branagh, he's having so much fun. You can just tell he's having so much fun. Plus you want to talk about a stacked cast, like, oh my goodness, every single member of the cast is someone interesting. So I think it's something, I'll revisit it now and again when I'm like, oh, you know what, it's been enough time so that I will want to revisit this mystery for sure.
Yeah, you guys pretty much said everything I would want to say. It's just it's a beautiful, spectacular movie. Check it out if you haven't. Certainly applies, considering we're talking about the second in the series today. And I didn't mention, but I'll mention it here since we're talking about Murder on the Orient Express. I watch Kenneth Branagh play Hercule Poirot as many times as he wants to. I think it's really fun, and there's some really fun moments. I mentioned, I alluded to, I should say at least, the it's a real problem moment, which was one of my favorite laughs of the movie, when someone says, you tell everybody they're a murderer or whatever, or accuse everyone of being a murderer. He says, yes, it's a real problem. All right, let's move on to let's see, Alice's number 3.
This is where I have Dunkirk.
Oh,
okay.
Nice. So Andrew and I had it at number 4.
Yes.
You have it at number 3. So start us off.
Slightly more. I just think, Christopher Nolan and very much going on the shifting timeline 3 stories where it's like at the end you're like, oh, that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, and I mean, even down to the score where you don't realize, and I'm like, why am I so tense? And it's like, oh, there's been a ticking clock the entire time. Like, that's why I feel like I want to jump out of my skin from stress. And I just think obviously the performances are just amazing. The different stories are actually so captivating. Like every single one, I want to know more. I think Tom Hardy is so like more easy to understand than in a lot of his normal roles in terms of the accent he's putting on, but also his storyline's really cool, and I just love the one with the dad on the boat, and then the 2 sons, and it just all comes to this big
Mark
swelling
Rylance,
Mark Rylance, thank you. Yes, where it's that big swelling rescue moment on Dunkirk is just so powerful. And I just in terms of war movies, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's Christopher Nolan. That's all I really need to say. It's great.
Aaron, how many times have you seen this movie now?
I think just twice. I think I've only seen it the 2 times.
Well, I remember whenever it initially came out, you and I were kind of hesitant to do a review because we were not on the same level as everybody else was when this movie came out. Everybody thought it was just the bee's knees, and we thought it was a good movie, but we thought that there were some big flaws in it.
I still think there are.
Yeah. Some people were saying this is their favorite Nolan movie, and I was like, it's not even close. It's middling to low for me. Granted, a middling to low Nolan movie is still extraordinary. I love how Tom Hardy proved that planes don't need gasoline to fly. You know,
Yep.
they just float on the will of the British. Yeah. So.
I think the reason it's improved in my estimation since our first watch is not because I don't think the flaws that we saw that first time don't exist. It's because they are flaws that exist for the most part, not all of them, but a lot of them, especially the major ones, are flaws that exist only for the first viewing, which is a really interesting thing that Nolan does. He does not seem concerned that his audience needs to understand what's going on the first time they watch his movie. Like he almost depends on rewatches to understand dialogue that is hard to understand because of sounds or whatever. He doesn't, I don't think he does a very good job of explaining visually what's going on with these segments. And because of that, I think it's harder that first time through to really feel the things he wants you to feel. The second time through, you can really feel them because you understand more of what's going on. I really wish Christopher Nolan would do a better job of emphasizing the first time viewing experience. I because that's my favorite viewing experience of a movie. Generally, is the first time I see it, and I think that to me that's why that's so valuable. But not to everybody. In fact, probably not to most people. So, I think maybe he's onto something. Maybe he doesn't care.
I was actually I'm fervently on the opposite end of that spectrum than you. That I love the way he makes the second viewing of his movies just as, if not more exciting. Prime example has got to be, oh my God, I almost said The Illusionist, but it's the Prestige,
Prestige, yeah.
The second viewing of that movie is where you get all the goodness. That's where the dessert is.
But that movie makes sense the first time through. That movie makes sense the first time through. There's no
talking about an overall movie watching experience.
No. I love rewatching things that have some sort of story turn at the end, and then you can see little other Fight Club, whatever the case may be. That's a fun experience. What I'm saying is, because Nolan doesn't care as much for the audience to understand things the first time through, it can feel more confusing. And so I would rather understand things the first time I watch it than have to go back and go, oh, okay, now that I know this is actually a part of the movie that I like. I still like all the parts of the Prestige that become even better once you know the end. But, with this and with another one that we'll talk about here shortly, I'm sure, it's kind of the same thing, where it's just the first time through, you're just like, okay, whatever, Christopher. And then you go to the next time, you're like, okay, all right. Yeah, this is a little better. I can put the subtitles on now.
Yeah, I will say that is definitely part of it. Oh, subtitles! I feel like all of Christopher Nolan's movies from now on, now that he's really gotten into this like sound design that he discovered in Interstellar, they should all just become hard coded with subtitles. I would just I'd be fine. I'm like, just give me the subtitles so that I don't have to be like, well, I think something interesting was said there. I won't know till I'm at home, I guess.
Yeah.
Another thing about Dunkirk, real quick before we move on, we talked about how it goes back and forth in time. If you're not really focused and paying attention, that can be lost on you because it's very subtle.
Yes.
Like seeing Cillian Murphy on that rescue ferry, you're like, oh, wait a minute, no, he was from later in the... Oh, okay. So if you're not paying attention, they don't make it to be a big reveal that this movie isn't linear. So... I'm sure.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I think it's still enjoyable until you realize it's not linear. Like, I was still enjoying it, and then when I figured out, like, oh, Tom Hardy's bit's actually only 2 hours of this whole thing, like, that's when I was like, oh, okay, that's an extra cool moment. Yeah. But I was still enjoying the experience, even though I didn't realize, until they revealed it.
I think we're on to our number twos, if I'm not mistaken.
That's you.
My number two, this is where I had Much Ado About Nothing. Nice. I really enjoy this. Alice, you had it on your list at 4? Is that
Four.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, four.
I used to watch this movie all the time. Robert Sean Leonard, who just mentioned in Swing Kids, is here as well. And then Denzel Washington is here. Keanu Reeves is here. Michael Keaton is here.
Keanu.
He's not. I mean, he just is what he is in this movie. But like, man, this movie's a lot of fun in a lot of ways, and I think of the Shakespearean adaptations that he's done, this is the one I enjoy the most, just because it's light and it's fun, and I can only watch Hamlet so many times and be interested.
And
so
Macbeth. Yeah.
And Macbeth, yes, right, yeah. So yeah, what about you, Alice? Since you had it on your list,
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure how many people know this, but I was a theater kid growing up. I did theater from when I was 5 up until I was like 20. And so I have read and know intimately every single one of the Shakespeare plays. And this is my favorite. Much Ado About Nothing's always been my favorite. And I had to watch this when I had to do monologues from it and, be in it and that sort of thing. So I watched this to kind of get my head around it. And I agree with what you just said, Aaron. It's just so well done. I mean, Emma Thompson is just, I love her so much. She is the greatest. And then I don't remember because I know they were married. I don't know if they were married during this or together during this, but the chemistry, even if you don't like Shakespeare, the chemistry between them and the excitement between the relationships and the different stories, the way it's done is just so enjoyable. I have so much pleasure in revisiting this over and over again, just like you, Aaron. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, and also if you don't know anything about this Shakespeare play, because it's like you said, it's not Hamlet, it's not Romeo and Juliet, it's not Macbeth. It's definitely one of his best, and it's a fun comedy. I do recommend it for sure.
This was right in the middle of their marriage. They were married from 89 to 95, and I think this came out in 93 or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Sure. You can tell that they're in love. It's nice.
All right, so number 2, Andrew, what's your number 2?
Tenet.
Yeah, I'm going to trump that. Alice, what's your number 2?
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Oh,
Harry Potter.
I don't think I have to say this again. I'm an insanely big Harry Potter fan. I grew up on Harry Potter. We all know this. I have many thoughts about the entire franchise and the entire books, read them many times. And Kenneth Branagh is the perfect Gilderoy Lockhart. He is so vivacious and charismatic and ridiculous, and it's everything you'd want in that kind of character. And he is so much fun to watch. This is actually the very first time I'd ever seen Kenneth Branagh in anything, because I was 6 or 7 when the first one came out, when this one came out rather, and so I didn't know who he was. So his first introduction to me was as Gilderoy Lockhart, and he's so perfect, and I love watching him. Again, you can just tell he's having fun with this role and being ridiculous and just so quotable, and every single time, it's been however many years, and it's amazing to watch every single time.
Nice. Good choice. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. All right, so on to our number 1s, I believe. My number 1 is Tenet, and it was Andrew's number 2.
Honorable mentions.
I have some of the same things to say about this as Dunkirk, although I think overall the beauty of the construction of this movie is what puts it next level for me. I just think there's so much intricacy in what he's doing here, some of which makes no sense, and he knows it, and that's okay. But for the most part, he's at least thought out structurally how this world works and those kind of things. And some of the other stuff you just have to leave up to metaphysical nonsense and just go, okay, that's how you say it works in this world, so that's how it works in this world. And yeah, I think it's a really, really unique, fascinating, and gorgeous piece of art. What about you?
They blew a building up forward and backwards in time.
There you go. All right. Moving on to your number 1, Andrew.
Wild Wild West. No.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
No. Infinity War. I'm cheating.
Me too.
Hey.
You're both cheaters.
It counts.
He is credited, and that's more than I can say about Swing
It's about
Kids.
Swing Kids, right?
Exactly.
I know. I was going to say that.
He is
yeah.
the Asgardian distress call. It counts.
He's the very first voice you hear.
It does
Infinity
count.
War.
It absolutely 100% counts. That is the spirit of the Best Ever Challenge. It absolutely counts. I just didn't think to put it on my list.
It's not just me. I thought this was going to be all me.
You know what? I'm going to let... I've talked about this movie way too much on this podcast. Alice, do you have... Just gush about how much you love this movie.
Oh, I mean, definitely between the two parts, although Endgame is the culmination and has one of the greatest movie moments of all time, Infinity War is... You want to talk about first parts? Alone, it's a perfect movie. I mean, we've all know this. It's Thanos' movie. He succeeds. The hero of the film succeeds. Just so happens that the hero is a really, really bad guy. And so everyone's on their A game. It was being in that cinema and seeing the credits roll with the final line just being Chris Evans as Steve Rogers just being like, oh God. Yeah, just...
Oh, yeah.
And then everyone in the cinema, I think everyone was expecting like a woo at the end, just because it's a big sort of moment. But everyone, I remember it was packed, it was quiet. And then the credits being the ashes just to really stab us in the gut. It was just, oh my goodness.
In that moment when there was the Asgardian distress call, that was Kenneth Branagh, like it was just so important to the movie. And
whenever we're talking,
it was. Well, you know what? It was because you know what it represents? It represents the futility of going against Thanos. That this race of literal superheroes had to send out a distress call into the ether.
Nice.
And it was important. And I actually remember when I first heard it, I'm like, I feel like that would be someone important. I kind of recognize that name, but then I never looked it up until now.
Until now.
Vindication. But it's just so well done. The action scenes are powerful. The culmination of these million-dollar casts, like multi-billion-dollar casts, coming together, meeting each other in ways that are realistic, but enough because it's a superhero movie, guys. But in a way that is exciting and interesting. And I mean, there's so many moments that I love watching in this movie, including when everyone starts turning to dust, which sounds intense, but it is so powerful when you just see that first fade. And then obviously the Spider-Man, it's crushing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'd imagine that, any parent with a kid would just be like, oh gosh, what is happening right now? And then I just love it.
None of my kids had super Spidey powers, so I don't know.
He doesn't care if they get dusted.
I don't know if I know the whole feeling of that.
No, I just mean the fear of losing them and not being able to protect
I got to be honest with you. I got to be honest with you as the parent in the group. I will say no. It really doesn't impact, I don't think, parents that way. And I'll tell you why, because it is so out there and it's not real. Like you're going to be much more impacted by like a kidnapping in a movie where it's like, oh, that's a real thing that could happen, or a death in a, like that kind of thing. But yeah, are we 3 for 3 on this panel for saying Infinity War is better than Endgame? Do all of us believe that?
It's the best Marvel movie.
All right.
Okay. Aaron, you and I, we go back and forth, kind of talking about what the best moment from the MCU is, and we always bring up like a Thor picking up, or Cap picking up Mjolnir, or Thor's arrival in Wakanda, or Cap finally saying "Avengers Assemble." Honestly, yeah, that might be the best moments in those movies. But if we're talking about moments in movies that are going to stand the test of time, I think the snap. I think the snap will go down as like one of the most influential movie moments. Yeah. Not just from the
you never
MCU,
think it's going to happen. You never think. You think maybe he'll get close to it, and then the second part will be like, oh, he almost achieves it, right? But it's like,
I knew he was going to do it. I knew he was going to do it from the beginning of that movie.
Comics.
No, not even that. There's no way they can build up this character from all the way back in. When did the first Avengers come out? 2011?
12.
Was that when the first Avengers movie came out?
The first Avengers was 2014, I thought. No, 2012. It was 2012.
2012. Yeah. But I was in year 12, yeah.
They'd been building up that character for like 6 or 7, 8 years for them to not pay off with such a,
And I mean, it's from the moment at the start. Like they kill Loki. Like I mean, we all know now. But
And Heimdall.
at the time, and Heimdall, like and it's not like a movie superhero death. It's a crack, like a neck snap, which is it's such a violent way to kill someone. And seeing that and Heimdall, these characters who you always think have plot armor, you're just like, oh, this is what, bringing it back to where Kenneth Branagh actually is.
Well, one of those characters had plot armor out of Heimdall and Loki.
Yeah, well, and Heimdall has probably flashback plot armor.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone magical kind of does. But at the time, you're like, oh, wait, no. That's Loki's like gone. Oh my goodness. And that's the beginning. And then you got Avengers, Infinity War, and you're like, oh, okay, 2 hours in, 2 hours to go. Let's do this. It's just so many. And then let's not forget just the action scenes, like the Doctor Strange fight, the anger I feel every single time that Star-Lord punches Thanos. Oh my goodness. You want to talk about most hated moment? You're just like,
Sure. I will say of the 57 people on the Avengers Infinity War poster, I had forgotten that Kenneth Branagh was there in the background. It's good to see. Good to see.
He's standing right next to Thanos, don't you see him right there?
Right, yeah, right there. I totally see it.
He's 3/4 of the way of being dusted out of that poster. That's why you couldn't tell it was him.
I have to mention
from the hips down. That's
right. That's right. I have to mention Hamlet. It is a very good movie that Kenneth was in, as well as Dead Again. I wanted to mention that one too. He has a small part in that, but I think he directed that. So, So wanted to mention those.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's another one worth mentioning.
Yeah.
I also want to mention
we can get to, like, I don't know if either of you. I know Aaron doesn't know how to read, but Alice, have you ever read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
Yeah, I have.
It's the closest we've gotten. It's the closest we've gotten to a true adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
A true and it's a great, like, he's so good in it. And again, I don't think we all need to like argue the fact that Kenneth Branagh is a fantastic actor. He knows what he's doing. He's classically trained, and you can see it. But the other movie I'd want to mention is Rabbit Proof Fence, if anybody's seen it. It's really powerful. If you haven't heard about it, it's about three half white, half Aboriginal girls that escape forced servitude in the 30s in Australia, so they, very much part of kind of the time of the stolen generation, where it's a really, really, it's a blight on the Australian history. And just watching this journey of, human will and power, it's just a powerful moment. And Kenneth Branagh plays a pretty bad guy, but it's actually, I would recommend anyone who wants to know more about just Australian history in general. It's a great, absolutely fantastic film.
Jason Clarke's in it.
It's got a few Aussie, I'd say like fantastic actors and cast, but it's painful. It is painful to watch, but it's incredible. It's just, I do recommend it, and it'll give you more insight into just Australia and our colonization. You guys had Native Americans, we had Aboriginals that we took advantage of, and really did horrible things too. And it kind of looks at that, and it doesn't look away. And it's just, really, the movies were really well done.
Most areas have a history of doing terrible things to the native population. And
my ancestors were Vikings. We did horrible things to everybody.
I mean, ancient Rome.
Yeah. All right. That will wrap it up for the BEC. Let's move on to our buried treasure. What's that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? Andrew, why don't you kick us off? What do you got?
New Netflix show called Murderville.
Yeah, I talked about this on last week's episode.
Oh, you did? Dang it.
Yeah.
I can come up with something else.
No, go ahead. Talk about it some more. I want to hear what you thought.
I really liked it. I mean, it's quick, it's fun. It's not the funniest show of all time, but you know what? You're going to smile the entire way through. Watching people like Conan O'Brien and Kumail Nanjiani, all these guys try and improv their way through a murder detective show is really fun. Everybody else in the show is scripted except for this trainee detective, and they're the ones that has to try and solve the case. It was a lot of fun. Whenever you watch a show where you can tell everybody who's making it is making it first and foremost for them to have fun is infectious. You vicariously feel that sense of joy or nervousness or giddiness that they do whenever you know it's genuine. And whenever you have somebody improving something, it's going to be genuine, because they're pulling from their true emotions. I had a really good time. I watched it all in one day. It took like 2 or 3 hours, something like that, just to watch the whole season. I don't know if it deserves a second season or needs a second season, but it was fun. And
Nice.
I wish I would have listened to last week's show because I would have known that it was Aaron's.
Yeah. I said a lot of the exact same things you said. We feel very similarly about this show. It's not the best thing ever, but the concept alone makes it a really fun curiosity. And there's nothing like it on TV. There's nothing like it on TV. And
the Sharon Stone episode was really funny.
I thought they all were. Surprisingly enough, the Marshawn Lynch episode is
that had me rolling.
Is so funny, and I really love the conceit, and they can do this forever, and I would have a fun time. I'm so glad there's so many murder mystery things in the world right now. It's so much fun.
That. I'm so glad about the revitalization of the Who Done It, because I personally really love those, like, Death in Paradise, those sort of procedural shows. It's just fun. I want to see people killed, and then I want to see a smart person solve it.
Nice.
Well, the thing with Murderville is that every episode is basically the same. It's the same formula where they're introduced, then they got to do this interrogation, then they got to go undercover, then they got to, at the very end reveal. Like, it's the same paint by numbers every single episode, but for some reason it feels fresh every single time. It's because you have new people coming on. And I'm going to ask you, Aaron, how many times were you right that it was every time you got the right one every single time?
Every time, yeah.
I missed two, I think.
I think for me that was one of the things, and it's okay. It's totally okay. But I thought they really did lay the clues on pretty thick, and it's not. I don't think the point at the end of the day, and they can't really with these short episodes and kind of all the stuff they're trying to do, make it like a complicated whodunit, kind of thing. But they definitely lay clues out in the interviews that felt like clues to me, and then it was just like, oh, now I get to watch who's right-handed, and it was kind of one of those things. So it did feel a bit. If that was your focus, which it was my primary focus, like one of my primary focuses, then because I'm just that kind of person, I love solving things. Yeah. Then I think it's out there for you. But if you're just having a fun time and laughing, and you get to the end and you're like, let me think about it. Like, it can be fun. So yeah. It's good stuff. Murderville. I'm going to change mine up. What you got? I was originally going to talk about a movie that I rewatched recently called Saved! From 2004. And I guess I will just briefly say on that point, it didn't hold up as well as I wanted it to, but as a person of faith, I remember in 2004 watching this and going, this is the kind of thing we need to see, people who are believers, and go, okay, this is why people don't appreciate who we are and what we say, because, we use the Bible as a weapon and, all these kind of things. And it's really well done. Mandy Moore is great in it, and there's a lot of good stuff. But I wanted to instead point you in the direction of, I remembered while we were doing this, of a music video. It's like a year old. Listen, when you're talking music with me, it's going to be at least a year old. It takes me that long to catch up on stuff. But the artist, I believe their name is pronounced Noga Erez. I could be wrong. I think they're Israeli.
Do you mind spelling it if you can?
Noga space Erez. And the name of the song is End of the Road. And there is a live recording of this on the Succulent Sessions. If you want to look it up on YouTube. Noga Erez, End of the Road live Succulent Sessions. And it is captivating. I love this video and this song. It has been a long time since the song has just bored into my soul like this. I love their style. I love everything about it. So, yeah, check that out. Noga Erez, End of the Road. And maybe you've already heard it, because again, it's a year old, but it's new to me. So I thought
I'm
I'd
the
let you know
same,
about
Aaron. The only music I listen to comes from movies and TV.
it.
I just put it on my YouTube list. Watch
Yeah,
later
check it
list.
out. Check it out.
Alice.
Alice, what do you got?
Okay, so I was choosing between two as well, but I went with this one because I feel it's more timely. So I don't know if you guys have already mentioned this, but I recently watched the entirety of the first, unfortunately, cancelled season of Cowboy Bebop on Netflix, the live action one, starring John Cho. And I'd heard it was really interesting. I'd heard a lot of mixed things where some people who did watch the anime and didn't really, really loved it, and some people who did watch the anime and really didn't like it. And Netflix, just as it came out, didn't like it, canceled it. It did one of its classic Netflix cancels. And the thing is, I'd watched some of the original anime, but with anime, the design style is really, really big for me, and I didn't vibe with it. So I just went in going, I really love John Cho. I'll watch it. I really enjoyed it. I think the cast was John Cho was fantastic. The entire cast, they gelled so well. I think it was such a fun, like, Western noir. I mean, again, and I know that this is based on the anime, but it is just, yeah, I had so much fun. And then the fact that it got cancelled, but the reason I say it's timely is because apparently I'm not the only one to feel this way, because it's currently got a petition out for some other network to pick it up, or maybe Netflix to bring it back, that's up to like 150,000 signatures. Just because it's such a fun story about just, if you don't know what it's about, just this ship. It's basically Firefly. It's what Firefly's based on.
It's Firefly.
Like
it's anime Firefly is what it was originally billed as back in the day.
Exactly. And so it's this ship Bebop, and it's this ragtag crew of bounty hunters, and every episode they're kind of like going after a bounty, but you're also learning about them and, you know, their history and that sort of thing at the same time. And I really enjoyed it. I really recommend checking it out. Try at least 3 episodes. Do that classic sort of technique, because I didn't know if I was going to like it at all, and I ended up only like wanting to get through to the end of it. So yeah,
nice.
I do recommend it.
A lot of people herald Cowboy Bebop as like the greatest anime ever, or one of the greatest animes ever. I'm not a fan. So whenever the show originally came out, I was like, I'm just going to pass on it. So
see, I was the same. I watched the anime. I was like, it's fine. I really enjoyed this. Like, I really did. So I do recommend maybe checking out a couple episodes, because I think there's something about the way they've done it where it's slightly different. Like, I mean, as simple as in the original show, the characters are like in their 20s, while in this one they're in their 40s. You know, they've lived life. They actually have experience in life behind them, and it's more believable. That alone already makes it better. But yeah, just the cast, the way they've cast it, the way they directed it, the stylization of it is something I haven't seen this. You know what I mean? So I really, and it was really enjoyable to watch. So I do recommend it.
Very nice. That is Cowboy Bebop on Netflix, Noga Erez on YouTube, and Murderville also on Netflix. We did it, guys!
Woo!
We managed to get very, very passionate and do a podcast at the same time. I love it.
Not quite to the Good Dinosaur levels.
No, nothing will ever get to the Good Dinosaur level, thankfully, ever again. Thank you so much for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to you, Andrew, for hanging out again today.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Let's rip.
Thanks to Drew for the visuals for the show today.
Yeah, buddy.
And big thank you to Alice for coming by again. Always love having you on the show. Alice, where would you like to send people?
Yeah, absolutely. Always love being on. It's always so much fun. But you can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd at AliGMich, ALIGMICH. And I'm also one of the writers for sifpop.com. My next review is going to be the Book of Boba Fett. So if you want to hear more about the passion that we went into today, you're going to get 800 words on it soon enough in the website. So, yeah.
Very, very nice. Appreciate you being here, Alice. And appreciate our Sif Pop members who, again, can listen to a bonus episode on our thoughts on the Oscar nominations this week. If you'd like to just find out what it means to be a Sif Pop member, just go to the Patreon and look around. It's patreon.com/SifPop. That's patreon.com/SifPop. Support starts at $3 a month, and you get access to all the bonus episodes, ad-free podcasts at different levels, monthly video hangout at a level, but you can check all that out at patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. Feel free to leave a comment, rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts, or you can email us at feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so make sure you let them know about it and that listening is much easier than surviving being a crime lord on Tatooine. We will be back next week with Uncharted. I think we'll review, and I think maybe we'll do the new Soderbergh movie, Kimmy, that came out this week. So Uncharted and Kimmy will probably be
Nice.
The reviews for next week, and we will see you then. Bye,
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Dr. Nick.
Doc and Lolly, glad your phones lasted. I saw the countdown going. 2%,
Yeah.
Mr. Stark. I don't feel so good. I don't want to go. We're glad you made it all the way to the end. Several others hanging out with us as well. But really, really appreciate you. So we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.